Yo guys, what is up? Max in our Borderlands 4 video, and today we got a bit of a news breakdown. Gearbox has finally spoken up about the amount of unintended damage bugs and interactions in Borderlands 4 and how they plan to deal with them, as well as some news about the Nintendo Switch. Hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. Let's do this. So about an hour ago, the Borderlands account tweeted, "Greetings, Vault Hunters. We need to share that the release of Borderlands 4 on Nintendo Switch is being delayed. We do not take this decision lightly, but are committed to ensuring we deliver the best possible experience to our fans, and the game needs additional development and polish time to do that. Our hope is to also better align this release with the addition of cross-saves." Big news, they are getting cross-saves for us, which we are working on and recognize is very important. We'll update you on all the new release timing once we fully adjusted our plans. And then they go on to talk about, if you did pre-order the game, that it's going to be canceled. You can, contact your, local retailer. But Borderlands 4 is delayed on Switch. I believe that was supposed to be originally coming out in October, and obviously they've been having a ton of issues with performance, particularly on console, with memory leaks, the lack of FOV, and I'd imagine that the gameplay on Switch was probably very suboptimal. So it's not surprising that they're delaying it, but I know that might upset some people. Hopefully they can get the Switch version in a much better state so that it can run the game well, which, has been a bit of a struggle. Next, we've got a tweet from Graham Timmons. Now, Graham Timmons is the creative director of Borderlands 4. He is going to be the guy that is overseeing and making decisions on game balance. And he tweeted out, "We've seen the discourse about builds that use unintended interactions, like infinitely stacking damage or abusing Groundbreaker, all these other things, and or the knife." It's funny that they call it the knife, because everyone knows what he's talking about at this point. "We're not going to act on those immediately. Instead, we're looking at our first round of buffs. Those will get addressed, but we're going to start with underperforming gear/skills first." So to start, the crazy damage bugs and shenanigans, like the crit knife, like bleed, like infinitely stacking damage, doing quadrillions of damage with Groundbreaker, all of these things do seem like they're going to stay in the game for a little bit longer, and they're going to be buffing the things that we're not using, underperforming gear and underperforming skills, which I think is great. I'm going to be honest. It's pretty impressive the amount of unintended broken damage interactions are currently in Borderlands 4 right now. Feels like there's so many. But one of the big things that they killed momentum of Borderlands 3 and Wonderlands were dropping huge nerfs that massively nerfed some of the most fun weapons and some of the most fun builds at the launch of Borderlands 3 and at the launch of Wonderlands. I remember the liquid cooling was a super cool weapon in Wonderlands. They nerfed it by 70% and it became basically useless. There were some really fun grenade builds on Moe's and fadeaway flak builds that got really hurt when Borderlands 3 came out. And so it looks like if your build that you're playing is really fun, but it's doing something unintended, that is safe for now. They're going to be buffing up, hopefully, things like Melee, Trouble, Apave's Lance. I hope they really take a buff patch at Amon's action skills and his forge skills. I think those need some serious love, but they have finally addressed the amount of damage interactions and bugs. They are not nerfing right out the gate. They're going to be buffing, and I think that's such a great, step in the right direction. The next thing to mention is loot quality. Now, I can't show this to you because it's in a DM with Gearbox. However, I specifically reached out to ask Gearbox what this loot quality is increased, what is actually going on for going up in Ultimate Vault Hunter ranks, because one of the most asked questions I get is is it worth to farm on UVH 5? And the answer that I've now received is that your loot quality means your chance to roll additional licensed parts or roll licensed parts on your gear. So if you're playing on UVH 5, if you're farming like a kickballer, your chance to get a Jacob's kickballer goes up when you're on higher tiers. They didn't say by how much. They did say that it is not a substantial amount, so it is a small bonus to that chance. However, that is what the loot quality increased is. So if you are playing and you're farming for a weapon, let's say you want a Jacob's Katagawa, it would be best to farm on UVH 5. However, if it's taking you 2 minutes to kill on UVH 5 and 10 seconds to kill on UVH1, you probably would want to farm on UVH1. Personally, I've just been keeping it on UVH5, but that is what the loot quality is. There is no increased chance for legendaries. Increased chance for legendaries has never been really a thing in Borderlands. If you are like level 10 and you're farming for an Unkept Herald from Savage Lee, your chance of getting that from Savage Lee is the same as it would be at level 50. What does increase as your level goes up is your chance of finding like world legendaries. Your chance of finding a legendary in a vending machine is significantly higher at like level 50 than it is at like level 10. But your chance of getting legendaries from monsters, specifically farming dedicateds, does not increase in your level ups. It does not increase in your Ultimate Vault Hunter ranks. What does increase is the amount of like licensed parts you will find. So you can use that information to decide what difficulty you would like to farm on. This might not be news to y'all, but this kind of blew my mind last night. I have like 330 hours in Borderlands 4 right now, and I have only found one phosphine weapon. If you don't know what a phosphine weapon is, basically there is a very small chance that you can get a basically shiny variant of a legendary weapon to drop. It doesn't change the weapon's damage, its stats, or anything like that. However, it gives it a very unique look that is awesome. Once you collect it, you can then apply it to any variant of the gun. So let's say you get a phosphine for a Chaosin, and it doesn't roll elements, and it doesn't roll like 4% stickies, but then you do find an elemental with 4% stickies, you can then put that phosphine skin on your Chaosin. So anytime you get this for any weapon, you have access to it for all of your different variants of the gun, which is super cool. And there are 69 phosphines to collect. Once again, in over 300 hours, I personally have only found one. However, I did not realize until last night that there is a achievement and a weapon skin that is exclusively tied to collecting all legendary phosphine guns. I cannot imagine the amount of grind to collect all these legendary phosphine guns. But I thought this was so cool because, you know, there's like these big races every year in Call of Duty to get like dark matter camo, and people are doing that in like a week. This is a challenge that could technically take like months or weeks and weeks to do, even if you're dedicated farming like literally every day. At the time of recording this, no one knows what this like weapon cosmetic is. I imagine it would look insane, and I can't wait to see who the first person to like legit collect all of the phosphine weapons will be. Definitely like a stretch goal right now with my playtime and the amount of drops that I've gotten. It would take me like 1,000 days to collect all the phosphines, playing literally every day nonstop. But I think it's so cool that there's something this rare and like this coveted in the game that is still a secret, that still like no one has actually seen what this weapon skin is going to look like. Guys, that is going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you'd like to see GEARBOX buff. I kind of mentioned a few. I'd also love to see them buff a fair bit of the legendaries. There's quite a few underperforming right now. But yeah, guys, that's going to do it for the video. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Peace.